Okay, we're going to finish up our theorems that we didn't get a chance to finish writing on our circle wheel. So just a quick review from yesterday. We've got two tangents are equal to each other is what we had for our tangent. The two segments are equal. Then for the chord, we didn't have the chords equal to each other, but we had the product of the two parts. So if I take my A times B, product of those two parts of that chord, it's always going to be equal to the product of the two parts of the other chord. So moving on, I've got secant. I've got mine set up already. If you need to pause the video and set yours up, go ahead and do so. And what we found with this one of the groups yesterday proved this. So if you're not sure, I can't show that in my video. I'm not sure how to do that to reference the picture, but you're welcome to ask somebody from class that did a proof if you're curious of how this works. It does go back to similar triangles, so somewhat like what we looked at with the chord. What happens is when we have, I'm going to go ahead and put some letters here, so join me in labeling my circle. I'm going to label an A for the length of this secant all the way through the circle. And then I'm going to use a B to refer to this part that is just outside of the circle to the point of intersection. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this other secant, except I'm going to use the letter C, and then I'm going to use D right here for that part out of the circle. And what I know is I know that and again this goes back to similar triangles, the product of A and B is always equal to the product of C and D. What I like to do, what I like to say to myself, is I like to say W times OP is equal to W times OP. So going back to what we said over here, when we said P times P is equal to P times P, I said the P stands for parts. Follow my logic here. The W is the whole length, because when I'm talking about A, that's the whole length of my secant, is equal to OP is the outer part, so that's just the B. And then I've got the same thing here, the whole times the outer part for that product. So what I want you to recognize, and that's kind of my shortcut of what I say to myself, is that we're never using this inner part right here when I'm looking at my picture. This part is not used at all in my equation. It's always the whole times the outer part. I don't use that inner part by itself. I use that inner part to get the whole length when I add it to the outer part. Okay? Sometimes you got to manipulate the numbers to get what you want. Last one is secant tangent, and that's really a variation of what I have with my secant. So I'm actually going to begin this one the exact same way, which is labeling my entire secant as the length A, and then I'm going to label my outside part as B, and I'm going to start off my equation by saying that A times B, where A is my whole and B is my outer part. Looking familiar, right? But the problem is that when I get to the other segment that I have, my tangent, I only have one part. I don't have the two parts. I don't have a whole and an outer part. So what I do is I just take that part, and I'm actually going to multiply that. Since that's the only thing I have, I'm going to call that C. I'm actually going to multiply it by itself, so it's going to look like this. Sorry about that. It's going to look like this, and I'm going to have C squared, or C times C. So for kind of my reference to myself, I say whole times outer part is equal to T squared, where T is my tangent. And that's just kind of a good way for me to remember it. So these are kind of my mnemonic devices that I use. WOP equals T squared, WOP equals WOP, and P times P equals P times P to remember what I do. So those are your new theorems. You are welcome to look them up in the book as well to read them. I did give you the reference numbers, but make sure you have those on your circle wheel, and you have some example problems on the back side of your theorem page or your proof that you did yesterday in class. So go ahead and try the example problems. I made another video to go with that. Use the videos in Schoology.